to Supply Chain Tech Podcast with Rombi. In this episode, we speak with Dr. Muddassir Ahmed, the MEA Regional Planning and Operations Manager at Bridgestone EMEA and the founder of SCMDOJO, a leading blog for supply chain management professionals. He shares with us the most common and unique supply chain problems he's come across, the top 3 supply chain management trends and technologies, and top tips for supply chain management professionals in the new normal. All right, welcome to the Rombi Supply Chain Tech Podcast series. Today we have a very special guest with us. It's Dr. Muddassir Ahmed. For those who know Dr. Muddassir, Dr. Muddassir Ahmed is, you're probably thinking, what is it that Dr. Muddassir is doing on the other end? He's usually conducting all these podcasts, and today he's with us being quizzed. For those who don't know Dr. Ahmed, Dr. Muddassir is an entrepreneur. So he's basically works like an entrepreneur within large organizations. He has traveled a lot of countries. He's currently with Bridgestone, running their supply chain planning and operations based out of Dubai. And more interestingly, he also runs his site called SCMDOJO, which is actually a large repository of knowledge for the supply chain society, which also makes him a supply chain evangelist. So that's in short about our very special guest today, Dr. Muddassir. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you, Prasad. I think this is one of the best and precise introductions someone has given me. So well done for your research and the study. So yeah, I probably don't have anything to add. I think you've done very well. So let's start discussion.
Thank you, Dr. Muddassir. So first question to you is, you actually traveled in what you say in your in your site that you've gone to 36 countries and more. You've worked in 26 of them. What is the most common supply chain problem that you see in all of these countries that you visited or worked in?
No, good question. I think I recently posted on one of my LinkedIn, I do some posts and stuff. One of the most common problem, as I put a headline, is a visibility, right? Is a visibility of your demand, visibility of your problems with the supply chain, visibility of data within the organization, right? Which mainly stems from a lack of integrated system. In the supply chain, despite we are in 2020, there's a lot of systems are available, technology is going through the roof, and we are doing this episode during Corona days. If you go and see the share prices of the company, I mean, the tech companies or entrepreneurs are making billions every day, right? Because of there's still a trust on technology. So, and despite all that, I think visibility is a big problem, right? So I'm not going to say nobody sees Corona coming, but that's fine. But we are already in 6 months down the line. We still don't know, what is going to happen in 6 months, 12 months. But this is where I believe we have enough knowledge across the, let's call it the think tanks in the supply chain. We should be able to start seeing what's going to happen in your market, in your vertical. But that was a problem I see in general anyway. Without COVID, it was the same issue. Suddenly, boom, something happened and you say, I don't know, and I start losing business or market share. So visibility is a problem. We need more tools available. More technology needs to get better, which is essentially help us in enhancing visibility, therefore integrating supply chain both upstream and downstream. Once that has happened, because essentially us as a supply chain people, unless you work in a warehouse or work on a production line putting parts together, 80 or 90% of people, we sit behind a computer and the only thing we do, we manage information, right? Since we manage information, so we have to get a better information, right? There is no other way. Of course, your technical knowledge comes into play, but the better you get information, the better you get in your managing your materials. And essentially, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to provide the service, which is on time, with the lowest quality, with the shortest possible lead time, with the best quality you're gonna get, and you can only do that by managing the information better. So that's my first common problem. The second one that I see is and you probably hear me saying this over the period of this episode, is the competencies in supply chain, right? because I would probably want to take my last job in Bridgestone as well, because the beauty of supply chain is very multicultural, right? Unless you
Yes.
work in China, which is I have visited China a few times. It's that everybody's just Chinese around you, which is great because you have a common culture. Or unless you go to Japan, everybody's Japanese. But even
Yeah.
if I go to Romania or Czech Republic or Germany or France or UK, Dubai, it's hugely multicultural, right? So in my office, I remember I have a meeting even just today. I have 13 people in the room, not allowed even because of the COVID and stuff. Should not be 13 people, but they are from 12 different nationalities. It's so diverse. So there is a very diversity of the people around us, and that diversity is not just their ages, experience, sexes, nationalities, and all this. Their diversity in the knowledge, and most of the people uh, end up in supply chain is because they just end up in supply chain. It's not, there's no
Yep.
career plan, right? It's not like I want to be engineer and go this way, I want to be a doctor and become a doctor and surgeon. It doesn't work like that. Most people somehow after engineering or basic whatever graduate degree they do, they end up in supply chain. After 3 4 years they realize actually I want to go and do some education, and everybody basically direct them to do this apex, the SIPs and CLT, which is ridiculously archaic, ridiculously old. Mostly, theory is there, but it's not up to speed. I know they keep updating the curriculum, but most importantly, they have made it because they want to make money out of certification and selling their books. They made it very, very expensive, right? And it's not available readily to the let's call it the bigger community of supply chain. And that's what I'm trying to do as individual. Make this knowledge readily available to most of the supply chain community who wants to work. So just cut long story short, is the second problem I see. There is a huge gap in the technical development of the technical competency of the supply chain professionals. Moreover, also a soft skills, because you do not underestimate, because like business, supply chain is a business function which depends hugely how you deal with people, your soft skills, your leadership skills, your communication skills, your emotional intelligence, right? We only learn those terms 5 years down the line. We should be teaching them to a graduate 22 years old who come to a business, right? So you can see, I mean, I can talk on this all day. Just to close this topic again, supply chain visibility, and also the lack of, let's call it, technical competency and a knowledge base at the in the supply chain community.
Well, that's a very interesting point, Dr. Muddassir. You're talking about the fact that people get into supply chain because they just landed up there. It's not that nobody in college or during their higher education basically say that supply chain is what I want to get into. Because if you look at the other spaces like the consulting space, people, when they are studying, they're like, hey, I want to be a consultant. But nobody says that. So can you elaborate a little bit more about why supply chain is not the cool profession, for lack of better words?
Yes, I think it's if you see the evaluation of the business functions, right? So if you talk about management or general management, so the term supply chain management was not it's not even established 20 years ago. They used to call it purchasing, which now has become procurement. And I have a blog which says what is the difference between purchasing and procurement, or most of strategy procurement. And they used to call it a materials management and logistics, right? And now it's become supply chain management. Okay, so it has been evolved over the period of 20 years, right? But the marketing always existed, your financial accounting always existed, right? Even IT all existed for last 20, 30 years. The IT graduates grew, and it's a cool thing. You want to become a software engineers, make a lot of money, and it's there. So most of when I was growing up, I only have two options. If you think about it, because I don't want to be a doctor or medical field. You go to engineering university and basically end up being into a big company, do engineering jobs, whatever, or go and do your MBA, or maybe become a do a finance degree, become a CA and make a lot of money. So nobody actually mentioned there was a chance or there's education available for supply chain. Now you can see in UK, USA. Now, I mean, I have written quite a few blogs about top 23 schools in USA or Europe or in UK. Now the master's programs are available for the supply chain. So I'm not saying they are not available. So they are again available with the lean manufacturing and etc. But in fact, is still now, if you think about it, if you go to LinkedIn, so go to LinkedIn Pro, right? And you will see in LinkedIn Pro, they have a marketing function pros available. They have a service industry like finance, accounting, legal, right? And consulting as well, and art and designing and writing. But you wouldn't find supply chain. So my question is, why somebody like LinkedIn, owned by Microsoft, who has all the power of artificial intelligence, do not see supply chain as a function, right? That's just my simple question. And that's borderline ridiculous for me, because the thing is, people, including, again, I'll give an example of LinkedIn, which is 660 million professionals, they confuses supply chain as a function with logistics as an industry. So logistics is an industry, right? Is like shipping in an industry. Like logistics is an industry, like 3PL in the industry, for example, steel is an industry, right? Because do not mix the two things, okay? So logistics is an industry on its own, which is related to moving parts from A to B or anything with the physical space of the goods. But supply chain is a function, right? It could be a small function, bigger function, it depends. So coming back to your point, so established over the period of time, now it's getting uh, better thanks to the companies like Zara or Apple or Amazon, more to say. They have now proven that the products, you can only design innovative products so much, right? The innovation in the product right now is expensive, is limited, is difficult. To become a market leader, companies and products are not, so people are not competing, or the businesses are not competing with products. There is a supply chain competing with supply chain, right? So again, I give an example of Schneider. Schneider is a leading provider of the electrical. It's not like they have a super innovative product. Some of them are, but most of the companies they make by simply superseding or being better in managing supply chain than their competition. I'll give example of Amazon, right? Amazon, an e-commerce company, they started Amazon Prime. Why everybody happy to pay them, whatever, $10, $15, whatever their monthly fees is, and because they just need, they have designed the supply chain structure that they can commit you to provide between 24 hours. And based on that commitment, you're happy to pay them extra money. And guess what? They have made $700 million last year just from Amazon Prime, which is basically a money which is driven from a customer service. And it all comes down to their supply chain design. So supply chain awareness is increasing. People are recognizing is a go-to function. The only issue we have got right now, which is, again, if you see my videos and one of my videos on my channel as well, if you go and see, the CEOs still do not see that supply chain is a C-level job, right? So what happened is you have a supply chain managers and your directors, and they either end up reporting to CFO or one of your CEOs. CEO means the chief operating officer, right? Chief operating officer. In my view, that's wrong, right? CEO is managing the operations, manufacturing, or other functions like quality or maybe R&D or engineering. That's cool with me. But the supply chain itself is a different ball game. Strategy is a different ball game. It's the way you need to think about supply chain to give you a strategic advantage. And I don't know about you guys, but I know a lot of operational leaders. The operational leaders generally come from the industrial engineering background. They end up in manufacturing. They become very good in quality. They know everything you need to know about manufacturing, quality, etc., etc. But unless they come from a supply chain background, which some of them are, like I always give an example of Tim Cook, right? So Tim Cook is a supply chain guy who became a CEO and he's transformed the Apple. It's very difficult for the other operational leaders to know as much as know about supply chain. So what they do, they end up hiring a lot of people and relying on their information. But as a C-level person, your job is to set a vision and your job is to set the strategy. If you're going to hire people to set the vision and strategy, then it's not your vision or strategy. You're basically getting somebody else to do it. So my suggestion to the, let's call it corporate leaders and CEO is start thinking about, yes, chief operating officer is important. You need it, keep it. However, supply chain management is a separate function and you need a chief supply chain officer. right? Call it CPO, call it whatever you want. I don't really care. So that's one reason. The second reason I want to give is you will find a chief marketing officer, you will find a CFO. The thing is, they have their own agenda. They have their own bias and agendas, right? The CFO needs to make sure their P&L look profitable, if the shares goes up, etc., etc. And the same with marketing guys. But the thing is, they try to influence supply chain to do stuff or without understanding the, let's call it, details, right? Or maybe some of them do, with all due respect. But the mindset is different, as I'm trying to say. So essentially, as we say in our business world, there's a slight conflict of interest, right? So it's almost like the person who is allowed to do invoicing cannot enter orders because there is a conflict of interest, right? And that's what I'm trying to say. If the sales is bringing orders in, which is on the upstream of the process, then they can't do the invoicing part. It has to be done by somebody in logistics. So it's a mindset change is required, and once that will happen, just to conclude my thought process, the reason I'm saying it needs to be on the C level, then the supply chain people will become as important in the company as a marketing person or any salesperson or any financial person, and they will probably make more money, right? Because right now we are very much considered as a transactional people, right? Sorry to say, mostly, and the transaction people will not get as much money, right? So make sure the once the function uh, goes out from a transactional function
Transactional to a
to the
strategic kind of
strategic
function.
function where they are perceived as value addition rather than the support cost. Because you check any P&L right now, all financial people's salary sits in support cost because they do not see as a value adding function unless you work for Amazon. Amazon,
Yeah.
I think the supply chain is a value adding function. So they pay a lot of money. So I mean, again, long answer, but that's my answer.
No, I think to your point, Dr. Muddassir, your the whole supply chain aspect in today's world has actually come out very well. I think things are changing because people are starting to recognize that if for the COVID vaccine today, one is the innovation and the manufacturing of the vaccine itself, and the second one is how do you take this and distribute this to every single person in the world who needs it. So that brings me to the second question, Dr. Muddassir, something that I've been very curious to learn about. How do your thoughts about changing this world as a supply chain evangelist, how did it take you from Muddassirism to SCM Dojo? Can you tell us a little bit about your journey and the work you're doing to follow your passion of changing this space to how you envision it?
Yeah, I mean, it's all down to, as I have it at the back, do what you love. Again, I like most people, I said I ended up being supply chain. I did my master's in management production and supply chain, and I absolutely loved it, right? So it has bring in a lot of prosperity to me, a lot of success, my PhD and all this. So I really like, and I genuinely believe that supply chain is a strategic function which can drive competitive advantage to any business, right? And could be a service business as well. It doesn't have to be a product business, because you can, because one of my specialties is supply chain design. But to answer your question, so once I did my PhD, I was basically too lazy to write research papers, right? Because I only have 2 research papers, but I have a lot of information available with me, and I was one of those, let's call it, people collect coins or pens and nice watches. What I do, always have been doing for the last 20 years, I collect information, right? So I have a folders and folders of and files of best practices, knowledge, and a lot of things available, right? So that's what I have in handy. And I tried, so once I was doing this, my PhD thesis was available, and I come across as somebody said, oh, why don't you start doing start publishing? So I started just basically publishing on WordPress. It was essentially a bunch of my thesis. So if you see my all articles in 2000, end of 2015, end of 2015 and 16, they all basically mostly around supply development, which was my research topics. So once that happened is then I start writing something about more practical. For example, few years ago, I wrote an article between interview, 23 interview questions, because everybody asked me, oh, I'm doing a supply chain interview, help me prepare, right? So I just wrote an article which was the questions I would have asked, right? And that is now in the top 1% of the top 1 or 2 of the Google. Similarly, if you search the inventory reduction strategies, so I have wrote a blog on 80 inventory reduction strategies, which is nothing but my experience, right? I'm just writing it, okay? What I've learned. I mean, this week I'm writing a blog of 15 reasons why you should increase the inventory, right? And I can give you 15 reasons why would I increase the inventory. Being an engineer, I like my list. I cannot write too many qualitative blogs, right? So when I start publishing it, a lot of people find it very useful, right? Especially the professionals on the early part of the career, being 3 to 5 in the industry, maybe up to 10, 15 years. They find industry interesting, so I help them out. A simple thing. If you Google LinkedIn supply chain groups, so you'll find a blog on that. So just to help the community get better in their job. So this is the vision of SCMDOJO. You can go and have a look. The supply chain knowledge and solutions for everyone, and I mean everyone, right? It doesn't matter what function you work. You could work in sales, you work in finance, you work in engineering. If you come to my blog, you should find anything from basics to a very advanced topics in whatever category you want to find, right? So that was I think one of the reasons I did that is to make it available. I find it, and during the journey, I started learning about SEO and digital marketing, and I just do it in my part time where I get time. So I have right now, I think SCMDOJO is considered as top 3 in the world right now in terms of the supply chain blog. Recently, somebody published.
And you have like 30,000 followers on LinkedIn. A large part of them
be 37 with this
30 plus thousand followers is what I noticed. So definitely your all the work you're doing is definitely reaching the people and really empowering them. So I think it's a phenomenal initiative. How long have you been doing this? So you also travel a lot, and how do you manage to travel? You worked in 26 countries and you do this. How do you manage your day?
I mean, when I said, just to correct, okay, I did travel 38 countries, but my experience of connecting for work reasons is about 26, right? So it doesn't mean I work there.
That's
what I mean
still a lot more than most people
do. So I think so when I try to sell supply chain to a graduate, and this is one of my way to sell them, and it's an exciting thing. Supply chain takes you places. I would have probably not gone to China if not for my work. I would have not gone to Romania or Czech Republic or Malaysia, right? Or to those countries unless it's all I had to travel because of the work, right? So it's go and see suppliers, do some supply assessment, have some terrific experiences, meeting with a lot of fantastic people. Again, let's talk about this cross-cultural, experience, which is fantastic. I remember in 2008, my first visit to Dubai was essentially setting up a 3PL warehouse, which was again for work reasons. So as supply chain makes you travel. Furthermore, when I become, in 2017-18, my blog started getting traction. And I think, as you said, it was Muddassirism, but then somebody said it's very individual and other people wants to contribute. Then I moved to supply chain dojo. And that's the theme. Dojo is a Japanese word, means a place to learn and meditate. So that's I think the brand fits well. People started inviting me for being a speaker and a masterclass trainer as well. I mean, unfortunately, COVID has happened. Otherwise, I would have traveled to 3 more new countries which I've never been. I was supposed to go to Azerbaijan in April, and then May Kenya, and June South Africa, and which unfortunately didn't happen. So the point is, supply chain can take you places and go and meet new people, and that's, for me, I find it very exciting, and I like traveling. So yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. Dr. Muddassir, the first thing that you talked about was basically the need for supply chain visibility. So let me touch upon that a little bit. Supply chain visibility is part of the entire innovation that is driving supply chain today, where you can actually sit where you are and visualize everything that's happening across the world without actually having to physically be there. Um, with that in context, could you talk a little bit about not just visibility, but innovation in general in supply chain? Um, we always talk about innovations in manufacturing. We talk about innovations in e-commerce. We talk about innovations in marketing automation. How do you perceive the innovations that are happening in supply chain from a technology perspective? What is driving it or what is not?
You know, Prem, I think this is a very, very good question, right? And I'm going to give you the answer by starting a good example. So think about marketing pre-Google, right? Think about marketing pre-Google. So what was marketing look like? So you're a marketing guy, tell me how pre-Google marketing look like. So what was your main verticals to put your brand forward? Well, so just because you're a marketing guy, I'm asking you a question. I'm sure you can say something about it.
Absolutely. I think you've taken back the role as the
Yeah,
podcaster. Just kidding.
yeah,
But very good question, Dr. Muddassir, is it was a very ATL driven world. You had to rely on people to get your message out. You had to rely on the TV channels. You had to rely on the publishers. You had to rely on the magazines, and you had to rely on hoardings.
yes.
But Google came in and it democratized the space. Anybody with a laptop in front of them could now reach out to the people they want. That's kind of how I look at it from the marketing space. And I'm very eager to learn how you apply this analogy to supply chain.
Exactly, right. And this is where the game changing happened with marketing, right? The people like me, I have, believe me or not, right? I have never studied marketing in my life, right? I have never been to any business school which have a marketing course. I have never taken any marketing course, right? What I've just done, I've just bought a digital book for free, in fact, from Amazon Kindle, again, digital marketing, on what is digital marketing. So learn about newsletter and also learn about how to write a good copy, how to write an SEO. And then I found about Yoast. Yoast is a very good, leading company on SEO. So start following them. Then I found out a couple of big bloggers and start following them. It would have not happened pre-Google, would it? It just would have not happened, right? So what happened is the digitalization of the marketing function has changed the game entirely. How you put your brand forward. You would have not known me if at the grade level, you just wouldn't know me, right? The reason you know me is because I am into a digital space. I'm writing content. Content is king. It's a video content and the text content, whatever same you form. The point is this: technology has changed the game in supply chain. So following this example, if you think about what was supply chain, 15, 20 years ago and what is right now, have we really changed the game? The answer is no. We haven't really changed the game, right? The ERP system is still the bloody same old 20 years old SAP ERP system where you go into SAP, put a T code in, and it runs your report, and you tell me you got in stock or not. That is crap. That is Kodak. That is rubbish, right? And I genuinely this, and I say this out loud. I have a blog which is written, why ERP sucks. And I think those IT companies who basically develop their brands on the management of the ERP, which is basically supply chain module linked with the finance accounting modules and few others and master data, they have they have killed the innovation, right? Now their SAP is launching SAP HANA, too flipping late. They're 10 years late if you ask me, right? Oracle is trying to do on the cloud, too late. Digital marketing people are in cloud 10 years ago, right? They were working on cloud. They're in the enterprise was there, right? Now they are really thinking, they're not thinking about going to cloud, the digital marketing or fintech people. They're thinking, how I'm going to use AI or machine learning, right, to bring the best value for my customer. I mean, right now, so now what happened in supply chain phase, they realize, oh, we are late. Oh, let's talk about big data. Let's talk about AI. Let's talk about machine learning. Let's talk about 3D printing, right? Let's talk about blockchain. The thing is, uh, all those people who are talking about those, let's call it technology or innovations available, they are not supply chain people. They are the IT
Yeah.
people, right? They are the IT people trying to sell technology to the supply chain people, which is again for me is a dumb move. The right move is the supply chain people should learn enough, fast enough, quick enough to all those technology platforms available, which could be platform as a service, which could be any SaaS tools available, to know their processes, right? Know their current business problems, and start using technological solutions available to drive value for the customer. If you follow what I mean, right? So
absolutely, Dr. Muddassir. So let me just ask you a follow-up question on that. So if ERPs are not driving the innovation of the future in supply chain, then who is, in your opinion, or who should be, who has begun the innovation journey in supply chain?
I would, again, at the moment, I would have to, the only people come to my mind, it's Google. So not, sorry, Google, Amazon, right? So Amazon, the way they have designed their infrastructure is enabling their physical structure to perform better, distribution wise, right? And the same level of, and that's why, if you ask me why AWS is so successful, the reason AWS is so successful, it's because Amazon Web Services, because they have designed their IT structure and their physical structure on AWS, right? So they have a very good real case study to play with, right? So they exactly know where the problem and pain points are, and they are designing solutions, right? But the other players like Google or Microsoft Azure, if they're coming right now, they are not into the supply chain space. So for them, they have to rely on other people to bring the problem to find a solution, right? So for me, I would say Amazon through and through, right? There is a reason why Jeff Bezos right now is the most richest person on the world, because I think he cracked the code of that, right? If you say, but I can give you one more example, which is slightly not always Amazon. Tesla, maybe I'm not the biggest fan of Elon Musk or his tweets, but one thing Tesla has definitely changed, which I feel is the right thing to do. If an OEM can do it, everybody should do it. So let me tell you what I mean by that. Tesla has decided they are not going to go to the traditional dealer model, right? They have decided you can go and literally buy your car online, place an order, and they can deliver you, right? They have done it successfully. So they have cut the middleman. So just think about the theory. When I was in 2005, 6, when I was doing my master's, I learned the theory back then in the books that if you have too many players in the supply chain, that means you have more cost, more bullwhip effect, and more inefficiency. So if the OEM or manufacturer get closer to the end customer, then you can drive more efficiency, you can make money. The knowledge is available for 15 years. But guess what? How many players has actually done that? Very few. I know Tesla, they have done it. Why Ford is not doing it? Why other car companies are not doing it? They are still going very archaic model of the distributor, dealer, and the end customer. Why? You know, I mean, right now, even I'm challenging the current, most of the models of Middle East. Again, the OEM is OEM. They have to hire a distributor locally in Middle East. Then they sell it to a dealer, and then they sell it to a customer. It's a waste because everybody's keeping their margins, and then the end customer gets a product very, very expensively, and you lose money in between because of the inefficiencies involved, which could be a bad information. The point I'm making is this. So come back to your question. The technology is available to connect the people who are producing the goods or services to the end customer. Do it. Internet have told you 20 years ago. What are you waiting for?
So, Dr. Muddassir, if a company is looking to transform their supply chain and they're on the digitization journey,
yeah,
what are the kind of solutions they should look for so that they can become those aspirational brands like Amazon that you talked about?
I think the first thing they need to do is, again, I think your question is very good, and maybe I'm not well prepared, but I'll tell you impromptu answer for that. It's to look into their supply chain strategy and their supply chain design, right? What I mean by the supply chain strategy and design is they have to look into, there's 4 key variables or segmentation when you look into your supply chain design or supply chain strategy. First is what's your product segmentation? Are you into innovative product, or are you more into a functional product? So are you making a really cool technology product like Apple, or you're making jeans, right? Because the design is different, right? The second thing you need to look at, what's your customer segmentation? If you are in an OEM sort of business, and you're again working for a few distributors, then your ABC analysis is different. Then if you are a cloth manufacturer, functional, and you're selling to e-commerce, Amazon is a different segmentation you're looking at. So, and then you look into your lead time segmentation, which is, I think, the most underrated topic in supply chain. If you would have asked, let me give you a question there just to test people. Ask any supply chain person, senior manager, tell me what's your supply chain segment, lead time segmentation. Just ask the question. And I am pretty sure more than 50% of people will actually struggle to answer you that, right? Or they're gonna give you an average number. And this is what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about, a supply chain person should exactly say that for example, my functional product, for my A grade customer, which I make 80% of my money, my lead time for those products is 5 days. I should know this top of my head. And that's what I'm talking about. What is your lead time segmentation, right? For your C-class customers, you should be able to supply with 60 days lead time. That's pretty cool because they don't forecast, they don't give you enough orders. You don't want to put them enough money. So design your supply chain based on your product segmentation, your customer segmentation, your lead time segmentation. And the last one is, which is again my theory than anything else, is your supply segmentation, which plays a big role, right? So you need to fit that into your supply chain design, which is basically you need to look into, okay, what are my A grade strategic suppliers which I want to develop to either innovate my product further or improve my service offering. You still need your C or B suppliers because they supply you widgets or parts. That's cool, but you need to identify your strategic suppliers. So this is how I see that. You need to know about, once you know your supply chain strategy segmentation, then you need to think, okay, what are my so the second aspect, which I think I touch base, you need to think about 4 pillars of supply chain strategy. So one of my first blog I did, and I remember,
and that's on your site where you talk about the
right?
4 pillars,
4 pillars
of
supply chain strategy. So it was in my bedroom and I was super rubbish. And you can see when you go and see right now, it was, I think 2007 early on, and I even UK in my bedroom with my crappy jumper on. But the concept is a 4 pillar supply chain strategy, which is basically a banner of my LinkedIn profile, which is people, processes, system, and execution. So once you know your segmentation of your customers, products, lead time, and suppliers, you need to think about, I've got people available. What are the people I want to develop? What is my organizational structure? What are the roles and responsibilities? Where is my competency gap? So almost do a SWOT analysis of your people, right? Similarly, you need to look into what are your key processes. What are your key supply chain processes? What I mean by key supply chain processes. Okay, how I do my ABC analysis and how frequently I do it. What is my SNOP, for example? What is my planning processes, distribution? I would say go down to a picking level. What is my picking process, right? So design as many processes as you want. And then look into the systems. What systems are using? What people do, which is, for me, is ridiculous. And again, that's why when I wrote a blog on the 9 factors of the risk in ERP implementation, is they go and spend millions and millions, right, to buy a system which is very less flexible or not very customized, and trying to fit a new system into their old business operation model. It has to be the other way around, actually. The system is designed around best practice. You have to change your business model, or sorry, your operational practices to fit into your ERP system. And then they claim the system is crap. No, the system is not crap. You just never redesign your processes into your current ERP system. Because people will say, oh, I used to get this report from Excel before, or I don't get it. Yeah, because you haven't really think it through how you're going to generate it from your new ERP system. So just to connect the dots, you have to have a system and the processes designed around that to make the best out of the system. And people should be trained to use those processes. Once you put that together, then you can focus on execution and execute it better. So don't sit down, have a lot of long meetings that you're going to do this and this and this. Small discussions, more time on action, more time on learning, the whole PDCA cycle, right? So that is what I'm going to say. So once you do that, then you will identify. By the way, I still haven't answered your question. So I'll come to answering your question. So look into your strategy, look into your key pillars. Once you know, then link it back with your business strategy. If your business strategy is we want to go towards the transformational journey, right? Or a digital transformation. That means we probably want to reach out the end customer, whoever the end customer is. So how are we going to reach them, right? So how are we going to, for example, how are we going to connect to them? What is our systems look like? What our key processes look like? So design your system. Let me give you example to explain my point here. I've currently done a project where the whole order collection system was through spreadsheet, right? Everything we used to get through spreadsheet from all the distributors. And once we send the supply confirmation was Excel file. Once we send them, for example, the documentations through emails. If anybody have to search any invoice or documentation, you just go to the folders and find out, you couldn't find it, like basic stuff, right? Then what we did was, again, a small example of supply chain digitalization. We create a cloud platform, which is available where customers can open the catalog, literally like very much like Amazon, look into the lead time, click on the picture, can see the product, see the product info, whatever the specification of the product. And I'm talking B2B, by the way. I'm talking B2B digital platform, not e-commerce, right? A B2B platform where they can see that. They can see the availability, which is because they are linked with the ERP system. You can see that. And then after this, they choose to order. When the order is entered, we can process it through ERP system. They get the confirmation that this is your shipping lead time. This is your estimated ETA, estimated time to arrival. Once you start shipping, they can see their containers because the information is available through the shipping companies. They can see on the web. They know when it's arriving. They can see their open orders. And they can download their documentation, everything, the whole communication into one platform. We've taken out a requirement of 450 emails per distributor per month. We've reduced the number of calls customer service used to get. We have taken all the annoying sort of communication from the sales guys. So they're more focused on adding value to a customer rather than saying, oh, where's the document? Where's the invoice? Where's my order confirmation? So that's what I'm thinking about. You starting from the strategy, understanding your customer, understanding your 4 pillars, and then delivering the value to a customer by doing a proper digitalization.
What you say is you're talking about top down, but I also think what you're really talking about is learn bottom up and implement top down. Everything that you're talking about is go down to the ground level, right from the picking in the warehouse to how your shipments are moving, to what is the demand, what's the supply, how is things working in every leg of the journey, and then align it with the 4 pillars that you talk about in your site, the strategy, and then now you're all set to take the top-down plunge because you have a bird's eye view of everything. I think this is a very innovative approach. It's the first time I'm hearing it. As we come to the close of this podcast, Dr. Muddassir, I have a few rapid fire questions if I was to call it for you. Okay. So I would see if you can answer some of these in less than a line. Tell me a myth that you've come across in the supply chain world.
Come across a myth. Oh yeah, I can tell. In God we trust. Everybody else bring data. That's a myth.
Top 3 supply chain management trends to watch for.
Right. Okay. I'm gonna give you a strange answer to this. I'm definitely a fan of supply chain digitalization. I've started a LinkedIn group. Please join, whoever is watching. So that's gonna happen. That will change the game, as fintech has done it or digital market has done it. And I think the second one would be is people are thinking the AI or machine learning will basically take the jobs off. That's totally wrong. And a lot of people, whoever actually think the blockchain is a technology to go for, they are wasting their time. Blockchain will not change anything. And I can explain you later on why I'm saying this. Could be a separate forecast, but stop wasting time with blockchain.
Wow, that's interesting. And I think people are looking to understand that later. But my third question to you is, what is your top tip for supply chain professionals in the new normal?
In the new normal, right? This is a best time to go and learn as much as possible, right? Because while you're on your laptop doing your jobs, That means you're not getting up in the morning worrying about I have to take a shower, I have to take a breakfast and do something, and then go to the meeting which you're not. I'm gonna give you my example, right? Half of the calls I join, I need to listen, I need to be there, but I don't add value. So I do multitasking. So get better in multitasking. And while you're not doing the things which you do generally in the office, use that time to learn. Right? And again, don't go for push-based learning. Any concept, anything you want to learn, Google it. You'll find my blog. You'll find a lot of nice resources. Do online courses. I've recently launched a course on sales and operations planning. Get that, do it. So learn as much as possible, right? And one more thing, don't think these podcasts, what you've done with me or few other people, it's useless. Actually, do follow and watch it. Let me tell you why. Because there's a saying my grandma used to say that listening to an expert is like reading 10 books. So rather than reading your 10 books, you just watch us lot for 1 hour and you learn a lot.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Muddassir. I think the supply chain world needs a lot more people like you, but we have a very positive future I see for the supply chain world, where this is now turning in from an executional function to a straight business transformation function. So thank you for your time, and we look forward to talking to you soon. Thank you.
So thank you very much for having me. I really enjoyed the discussion. I really enjoy what you guys doing in the Rombi, and I wish you all the success. And yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Muddassir.
Hi, my name is Scott Mears, and I'm one of the hosts of the Supply Chain Tech podcast with Rombi. On this podcast, we talk to supply chain heroes from around the world about everything, ranging from the disruptions related to supply chains, their personal experiences with tracking technologies, strategies to build resilience, and much, much more. We already have some recommended videos for you to the side of me, and if any of this sounds interesting to you, do subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon so you don't miss another Rombi video. I'll see you next time.